Great results start with great goals, and a fortune in gold is built 1 ounce at a time. I would like to congratulate one of my subscribers for hitting a major milestone. I won't mention his name because I'm not sure how anonymous he wants to remain, but he told me in a message that he has managed to accumulate 100 ounces of gold. This really is an impressive accomplishment, and so let me announce how excited I am for him. In the spirit of what I said, that great results start with great goals, I am going to start the 100 Ounce Club. I know that for many out there this seems like a very difficult goal to achieve, but as I've said, a fortune in gold is built 1 ounce at a time. So I'd encourage anyone who is up to the challenge to aspire to be a member of this club. Your membership or progress can be completely anonymous, or if you choose to do so, you can post a message and let me know how you are doing towards the goal. I will provide lots of encouragement along the way, and we can celebrate together when you reach the goal. Let's take some time to discuss how significant 100 ounces of gold really is. I'm going to do so by pulling out the recent Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report and focusing on the Global Wealth Pyramid. This chart pulled from the Wealth Report shows the distribution of wealth as measured in US dollars of the adult population. There are a little over 5 billion adults in total out of the current 7.7 billion world population, the rest of them being youth. The bottom 3.2 billion of these adults, or 64% of them, each have less than $10,000 worth of wealth. The next 1.3 billion adults have a net worth of between $10,000 and $100,000. This represents 27% of the adult population. The next 436 million each have a net worth of somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million. And 42 million adults, or 0.8% of the population, have a net worth of $1 million or more. One can stare at this chart and notice how startlingly small the population of millionaires is relative to everyone else. Before I move on, I should qualify for you that I consider that wealth, as expressed here, should really be placed in quotation marks, because what is considered the wealth of the upper echelons is really the debt of the lower echelons, as well as the debt of the several billion youth and countless unborn. Much of it really would net out to zero if we were to do an honest accounting. What remains, the tangible wealth, is being assigned an arbitrary value in terms of dollars, which can easily increase or decrease as people change their mind about what things are worth, or at least what the dollar is worth. What is important is that the distribution of this quote-unquote wealth. So let's focus on that. If we tally up the wealth on the right-hand side of the pyramid, we can see that it adds up to $317 trillion worth. This is how much wealth Credit Suisse assumes exists in the world. Let's examine the top tier of the pyramid, the top 0.8% wealthiest individuals. These 42 million individuals each have over $1 million worth of wealth. Now, how much is $1 million expressed as a percentage of the total? It's really 3.15 times 10 to the minus 7th percent. Pretty small. $1 million is quite a small fraction of the total $317 trillion world net worth. I've mentioned that this total wealth number should really be in quotation marks. It could easily be doubled or cut in half as people change their minds about what the dollar represents and how many dollars it takes to measure out the value of what exists in the world. One thing that is a bit more concrete is the total amount of gold that exists in the world as measured in ounces. The value of the dollar may be quite arbitrary, but the weight of gold that has been mined won't change much from one year to the next. According to all of the data that I have collected, there have been 5.7 billion ounces of gold mined throughout history, almost all of which has been produced from the year 1900 onward. The quality of this data is pretty good. If each of our 0.8 percenters commands 3.15 times 10 to the minus 7th percent of world wealth as measured by Credit Suisse, how many ounces of gold would each of them need to hold to command a similar percentage of the above-ground gold stockpile? As it turns out, 3.15 times 10 to the minus 7th percent of the 5.7 billion ounce gold stockpile is just 18 ounces of gold. Think about that for a minute. If all of the world's gold was distributed in the same way as the rest of the wealth, then all it would take to be in the top 0.8% of the world's population would be to hold 18 ounces of gold. One mint tube of gold eagles would just about do it. This might seem hard to believe, but consider this. The entire population of adults is 5 billion. If there are 5.7 billion ounces of gold existing above ground, then there exists only enough gold for each adult to have 1 ounce on average. I'll repeat that so that it sinks in. There is only enough gold in the world for each adult to hold 1 ounce on the average. Let's take a closer look at this top 0.8% to see how wealth is distributed across this fortunate group. Here is what the top of the wealth pyramid looks like according to Credit Suisse. There are 37 million people with a net worth of between $1 million and $5 million. There are 3.3 million people with a net worth of $5 million to $10 million. 1.6 million people have a net worth of between $10 million and $50 million. Then there are less than 150,000 people with a net worth in excess of $50 million. Those at the very top are in the top 0.003% wealthiest individuals. Let's do a little math and fill in the percentages. So here are the percentages. I placed the percentage of the total adult population on the right-hand side and the percentage of global wealth commanded on the left-hand side. 0.73% of the population controls between 3.15 times 10 to the minus 7th percent and 1.58 times 10 to the minus 6th percent of the wealth, and so on. I won't read all the numbers to you. If you like, you can pause the video and inspect them on your own. What I'd like to do is to use these numbers to put into context what 100 ounces worth of gold would represent on the total wealth scale. 100 ounces of gold is about 1.75 times 10 to the minus 6% of the 5.7 billion ounces of gold that have been mined throughout history. So if we were to assume that the gold were distributed among the population in the same manner as the rest of the dollar-based wealth, then the holder of 100 ounces of gold would be here on the pyramid, in the third tier from the very top. This tier is completely within the 0.1% of the world's wealthiest individuals. So what is the practical meaning of all of this? Imagine the top 0.1% of world wealth holders according to Credit Suisse. This amount of wealth is very hard to come by in a competitive world. Only 1 in 1,000 people can attain this level of wealth. Quite a large fraction of this group get there because they were fortunate enough to be born into great wealth. Some get there because they are willing to lie, cheat, and steal their way into this group. Then there are some who have the sheer talent, ambition, and right set of circumstances to earn their way into this group. For all but the very elite few, it is nearly impossible to legitimately earn enough to amass a net worth of between $5 and $10 million. Those that do probably become quite numb to the process as each $1,000 is added to the last. It is natural to get to a point where the money starts to feel meaningless as it accumulates, and so it becomes much easier and more tempting to start spending as quickly as it comes in. Contrast this to the goal of accumulating 100 ounces of gold. 100 ounces of gold, at least right now, is a much easier goal to accomplish than accumulating $5 to $10 million. That's not to say that it's easy, just that it's easier. At the same time, the person building his or her gold fortune will likely not reach a point of saturation where each additional ounce starts to become meaningless. Quite the contrary. Each ounce obtained becomes a mini celebration. Each ounce is fully appreciated for what it is. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what I've meant in past videos about constant marginal utility. The astonishing thing about today's world is just how much easier it is, at least for now, to accumulate 100 ounces of gold than it is to accumulate $5 to $10 million. If times revert back to the days where gold backs even just a reasonable fraction of the outstanding credit, then the door will close to most who would like to achieve this goal. But at the same time, it will catapult those who are already in the 100-ounce club into the top 0.1% wealthiest individuals. So give this some careful consideration and decide for yourself what your goals are. Great results begin with great goals, and a fortune in gold is built 1 ounce at a time.